Welcome everybody to episode number 5. I'm super excited to have an amazing and very inspiring guest here for the Feed Your Soul podcast. And it is Shanda Hill. Welcome, Shanda.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Are you nervous?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's okay. We're going to loosen her up. Actually, we are going to loosen you up because what you don't know is what I do with my guests right at the beginning is dance. We're going to do a little bit of a chair dance, and then just to get us warm and going.
I've been moving all day in the warehouse.
But guess what? Boxes. You don't have to stand up. You can just sit and move. So here we go. Like, are you ready? Let's go, girl! This is just a video podcast that we do, and I like to do that. I actually called it my soul second because I find that a lot of people need to move their energy around sometimes when they're just sitting there. So I don't know if that got you more loosened up, or was it just a little bit
melting into your comfortable chair? You did well.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I just want to say, Shanda, you have an amazing history of running these crazy. It's not even a marathon; they are triathlons. Yeah. And what you've done has been incredible. I have watched you kind of from the beginning. I don't know your whole story. But whenever I see glimpses of what you do, I am completely inspired by you. So it is just it's such an honor to have you here. And for those of you that don't know Shanda, she just raced in a big race in Italy in September.
We're going to talk about that, aren't we?
We're going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so tell me, it's called a triple
Deca.
Deca.
Deca standing for 10, so it's the equivalent of doing 30 iron distance triathlons.
Wow. I read a post on Facebook when you first started, and I loved whoever was writing your post. I loved. Okay, amazing. Good job, Jax. Because this resonated with me because I'm going to say you ran, was it 544 kilometers? Your first one? Mm-hmm. The first run?
Mm-hmm. The run at this race?
Yes.
1,266.
Okay, what was the first thing you did? Was bike?
We swam.
Oh, swam first. Okay, so you swam
114 kilometers.
Yeah, okay, so 114 kilometers, which is the equivalent from Vernon to Penticton. So that was the first thing that blew my mind. So I was like, oh, okay. And then came your swim of 54.66.
The bike was after, so it's swim, bike, and run.
Swim, bike, and run. So the bike was 5,466 kilometers, yes. Which was the equivalent to Vernon to Miami, Florida. Jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping.
A little bit of a hard seat to sit on for a long time.
I don't even know. I can't even imagine the human body doing this. I think this is why I was so intrigued by it all. And then you ended up with your run of
1,266,
which was equivalent from Vernon to Saskatoon. Okay, this is no walk in the park. I did a half marathon and I was like, woo, and then I was starting to research Shanda. I was like, doesn't even compare.
But it's so different, right? It's it's the equivalent of taking a marathon runner and then going out and doing a 100-meter sprint. Just opposite ends of the spectrum, totally. Right? You develop different muscles. You're sprinting versus your, endurance muscles.
Yeah.
And then when you have events that go on for days like this, it's just a different type of mindset.
So what got you into this type of races? Did you start, have you been a trainer all your life? Were you physically active since you were young, or?
I raced BMX growing up.
Yes. Okay.
So, which is brute force, quick twitch, 30-second, really, really fast decision making, 8 people on a gate with you.
Yeah.
When I was young.
Yeah.
And I did that off and on when I was 14 until 2003
Yeah.
And then I was riding my bike up Silver Star, and the vehicle hit me from behind.
Okay, so when was this?
2003.
2003. Okay.
So
wow.
yeah, almost 21 years ago in March. And my body flew 30 feet from the point of impact. Yeah, it was really devastating.
100%.
And I had no memory of the accident. So I was riding, fortunately, with another biker at the time, and he was able to give a witness statement. And it was 5 years after that was really, really devastating, because you go from a national level athlete,
Wow.
and you go to being flat on your back, in your bed, and my mom's rolling me over, because the trauma to my neck and my back and the bleeding in my brain was substantial. And at the time, even in the NHL, head trauma was not recognized.
Yes.
So they graded it as a level 3 concussion, which is the highest that they had at the time.
Yeah.
But it was a couple months afterwards that they even did a proper MRI of my brain to find out that there's dry blood in the front of my brain.
So a couple months later.
So it was a CAT scan at the hospital right away.
Yeah.
And I was taken there. I mean, my brain glaucoma level was 3.
And oh my gosh.
A normal
I had no idea about this.
You asked, you're gonna get it.
No, and that's wow.
So
you went for 5 years, were you like what was the first year like? Were you physically not able to do anything?
My first goal after the accident was to walk a kilometer. And that's what I always remember, that and go back to that, because I just think if I had talked to somebody and they said in 20 years you're gonna run 1,200K, I would be like, you're a lunatic. Go back to the asylum.
No,
stuff like that. But at the time, you just try and make it through the day. Like, I had sensitivity to light, to sound, and my memory's still bad. Like, I'll see people that I've seen maybe once.
Yeah.
And they'll come up and they'll say hi, and I won't remember them. I'll see people that I saw 20 years ago. And the biggest part of my rehabilitation was learning to try to listen to somebody and put pieces of how I knew them or where I knew them. They'd come up and they'd say, like, I'd have no recollection of seeing a person, and they'd come up and they'd say, well, we were at the track earlier today, so I'd have a piece right there. And I go, okay, so I know this person from the BMX track, probably.
Yeah.
Or they'd say, how's your mom and dad? Okay, I would know that, they know my family. And so you just have to try and piece people together of how you know them and where they fit into your life. And that's been a huge thing that's been hard for me, because with brain injury, you can't see it on the outside. And as soon as all of your physical, your physical comes back, or somewhat, then nobody's aware of that. So, I mean, I had a filter that was just, I had to work on that. My filter was gone because it was frontal lobal damage. And
So you come from being like BMX athlete, like obviously your determination mindset is kind of who you are today. So you had that as you were competitive younger, to this accident that has completely taken everything from you.
Wipes out your identity.
It does wipe out your identity. So that must have been I'm getting goosebumps, because to think of something to go through so very traumatic, like for you to come out and to be where you're at today, I think is just awe-inspiring, Shanda. It really is.
I think it grinds you into the ground and would kill you, or it makes you tough.
That's what I love about the situation, is you were like, I'm not gonna get ground
Well, you do wallow in it for a while. And I think that's what so many people don't realize is I wasn't get up and fight right away. I was knocked down. And it was a number of years afterwards that I'd gone through, neurologists, psychologists. I'd been flown to Vancouver, and, they'd done multiple tests on my brain. And then one day I'd expected them to at some point put me back to where I was. And that was, I think, my biggest struggle, was thinking that I was just someday magically going to be back where I was before I got hit.
Yeah.
And the only time I was able to move forward was when I was able to accept that this is what it is, and I'm just going to have to take the pieces of what's left and just move forward. And that's That's a hard thing to do. So
it is a hard thing to do. It really is a hard thing to do. I think it's because like you were so used to living one part of a way, and like that's all you know. So here you are going, like you said, your identity is wiped, and who am I?
Yeah. So you pick up the pieces, but millions of people do it every day. It's not necessarily a brain injury.
Right.
It's marriage. It's divorce. It's life, and you got to pick up.
You got to pick up the pieces, and that's where we get to learn and grow in life. Is where you do, and I think that life is a journey, you know, and like it's full of the ups, it's full of the downs, and not everybody's gonna have ups all the time. Like we have to learn to ebb and flow, and you obviously are.
You're forced to.
You're forced to.
You're forced to.
Yeah.
So if you fast forward to, a number of years after my accident, the doctors said, don't go back to BMX. And I was so stubborn because they didn't want to see me get any more concussions. Of course. Because head trauma is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
So,
that is a big deal.
but I was really stubborn, and I thought I'll try. And I try as I could. I eventually got back to BMX.
Yeah.
But I could never go back at the level. I didn't have the quick twitch, the reaction. And my body, didn't really work the way you need it to work to get out of the gate fast. So
was that hard? But was that a hard realization for you? Is that maybe where you made that switch to like, I think I might have to try something else to get you into that mode?
Well, I never thought of trying anything else. I just came to the realization that, I'm either going to fight this, but I also felt like I was winning just by kind of proving the doctors wrong that I wasn't going to race again.
Yes.
So yeah, I might not be as good as I was, but I still proved them wrong by going back.
I love it.
So that was kind of winning there. And then it was 2010. My dad and I don't know, it was like a couple girls in the sauna at the gym.
Yeah.
And they were sitting there and talking about a half marathon that they were going to do. And I looked at these girls, and we were probably, in the same shape physically.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I thought, Jesus, if they can do that, I can probably do that. So anyways, I went online, found the race they were talking about. It was a couple weeks away. And I thought, okay, well, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? If you don't try, you won't know. So I signed my dad up too.
Amazing. Dad, you're going to do this with me.
Poor dad. Anyway.
In a couple weeks.
Yeah, in a couple weeks. We both, after that race, we went and did it, and we hurt. Like, how a couple days after you can barely walk because you stiffen up?
Yes.
I didn't know about ice baths at that time. I just knew that all that was awful.
But so you didn't know how to condition your body, I guess, right? You just said, I'm just going to go for it.
Just going to do it. And then you always pay the price if you just go do it.
Yeah.
But your mental takes you through.
Yes.
So after that, I had this feeling like, here the doctors have told me for so long, I can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. And here's something I can do. Mm-hmm. Oh, so let's go at it full bore.
Oh my God, I love it.
I signed up for every race I could find.
All running.
So that's all I knew.
Full marathons, half marathons,
everything that I could find in the Okanagan all the way down to Vancouver. Oh my gosh! I think it was close to 700K in the first year of running that I did.
What?
Every weekend I would run on Saturdays and run on Sundays, but nothing in between. So I didn't end up with an injury, and I think it's only because I was resting during the week. Completely resting.
Oh, you know what? That makes sense.
There's no overuse injury because, as much as running on the weekend sounds like a lot, I wasn't running at all during the week. I was fully rested. So
that's the cool thing about your body too. And then you must have learned so much about.
You're forced to learn.
Yeah,
you
your
want a
body.
Quick story?
Yes, I do. Yeah, you full.
I signed up in 2010. So before I did a 42K marathon, I actually ended up doing a 50K because it was in Kelowna.
Okay.
And it was up the side of a mountain. It was 25K up. It was called the Scorch Soul, and 25K down. I didn't know a lot about running. Yeah. And I'd run at races that had aid stations, so they gave you water. Yeah. Well, I showed up at this race, and I didn't know about it's ultra running now because it's over a marathon, so it's 50K.
Right, 50K.
And there's these two girls from Oregon there, and they looked at me and they're like, "Where's your Camelback?" And I was like, "What's a Camelback?" Which is the pack that you carry water with. Yes. I had no idea. I brought like a 1 liter bottle and expected to fill it up at aid stations or whatever.
You're just like, I'm just going to do it.
They're like, "You're not going to finish." Well, I was like, guess what? I'm finished.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to beat you.
Yeah.
I'm going to beat you just because you said I'm not going to beat you.
You probably did.
I did.
Yeah, you
I did, and they just thought I was crazy.
And you
but
survived without your
there
camelback.
was lack of knowledge. I drank from the streams, which is not. I mean, you can get beaver fever
Yeah,
apparently,
yeah.
but I mean, it was up a side of a mountain, so I was lucky.
Sometimes don't you think that lack of knowledge is almost
It's
better?
100% beautiful.
Yeah, I do, because I feel like you actually
so
don't
determined.
really know that what's going to happen, and then as things come to you, you just happen to deal with
And
the
you
situation.
don't have 200 different opinions
Yes.
in your head that you
Of
have to
what you
fight
should do.
with.
Yeah.
Your mental space is clean
Yeah.
because you're fresh and you don't really know,
Yes.
but you'll figure out A, B, C, and D plans as you go.
And when you just proved it.
So,
You just
anyway,
proved it.
So that was 2010.
Yes.
For the next 4 years that I ran, and I'd run off and on with a buddy, Marcus from Kelowna.
Okay.
And he's an older gentleman, and he'd been up Silver Star and came down and stopped at my house one night, and I was feeding him soup because I made food for everybody.
Yeah.
And he's sitting at my table and he says, "You should try triathlon."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "What's triathlon?" Didn't have a bike, didn't have a wetsuit. Only experience was 30 seconds.
So this is
Sprints.
2014.
2014.
Oh my gosh.
And he says, "Okay, well, I'm going to give you the Challenge Penticton website, which is the only close triathlon."
Yeah.
And he says, "Go take a look at the website." I went on that night and I was like, "I'm going to sign up for triathlon."
You got a little excited.
I put on my MasterCard the entry fee, which was a big entry fee. I didn't have the money.
You're like, I'm doing it.
And I was like, I'm doing it. What he didn't tell me is there was distances other than iron distance, which is a 3.8K swim, a 180K bike, and a 42.2K run. And he didn't tell me about any other distances. So I just signed up for the one that came up. I know now that there's like sprint and Olympic and all these shorter distances.
But you signed up for the heavy duty
That was
run.
in April of 2014. I had till August to get ready. So I didn't even have a wetsuit. I didn't have a bike either. April, May, June, July.
That's 4 months.
So the next day, I talked to him on the phone and he's like, "Did you look at the website?" I was like, "Yeah, I signed up." And he said, "For what?" I said, "Iron distance." And I think that I'd love to talk to him now and find out his reaction, like on the other end of the line when I said that I signed up.
Yeah.
But I think he now felt obligated to mentor me.
Well, of course you should. Just
Long
kidding.
and the short
Yeah.
is my, I mean, I went out and rode my bike about 10 times before that race. That's it.
And so, like, how long would you go for? Would you just bike until you retired?
Just a couple hours. So he took me out a couple times, and I mean, my goal is just to finish. So the cutoff time is 17 hours. And there's a considerable on the Penticton course, a considerable amount of elevation. There's like Richter passes, I think 11 to 13K of uphill.
Yeah.
And here my only experience was, 30 seconds on a bike prior. So I'm like, don't set your goals too high. Just finish this, right?
Okay.
Because you
Which
don't
was
know what
good.
you're in for.
Yes.
So the swim went okay. And the bike, I was kind of where I thought I should be, even though I hadn't done that full distance.
Yeah.
And then I came to the run, and I thought I would be good at the run because, that my previous experience was running for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was cooking hot out. I came off the bike. My electrolyte balance was out.
Mm-hmm.
I was puking my guts out.
Oh, you were.
Oh yeah, because it just happens.
Yes.
So then you feel weak. And I got onto the run section.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm going to run. I start running, and nothing's working well.
So, like, you feel like physically,
It's
your
so
brain to your
hot.
body was not.
There was a point where I got in the water because we're running out along the lake.
Yeah.
I got in the water, and I was just like laying in the water because it was so hot. I don't do heat very well.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
anyway, ended up walking almost all of it,
Okay.
but finished in
it.
14 hours. So,
Oh, that's still.
I was like, I beat my goal. So
That's amazing.
And then you think you're finished because you don't know that something bigger exists. He's not going to tell me about it because I don't even know what he knew about longer distances. So
because
it
this was all so new to you.
So new. So it was the year after that. I don't know. All the times just blur. But
Yeah.
I dragged my dad into it.
Into a triathlon.
He did one and he was done.
He said, "I'm done."
Good
for
for
him
you.
for trying. Wow, that's
So
amazing.
he finished.
Yeah.
He finished.
Yeah.
And then 2016, Roy Bass, he said to me, "Have you ever thought of doing like a double?" And the race was called a double anvil because they can't use the name Ironman.
Okay.
And it's basically double iron distance. And it was in Oregon. And there's like 7,000 feet elevation gain on the bike. So we're doing loops. It's on a closed circuit for the safety of the athletes.
Yeah.
But we're doing loops, and I was like, no, you're a lunatic. Like, I'm not going to go in circles all day.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Right. Like, how does that make sense?
He kept at it. And
Really?
2016, I just said, okay, I'll try something else. 'Cause I'm a sucker for punishment.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, clearly. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? But see, that's the beauty of, I think, possibly having a brain injury, because somebody that was like methodical or A-type personality would think all these things over
You're right.
and then let their brain get in the way.
Yes.
And me, I'm just like, okay, why not?
I love it.
Somebody else did it before me.
Love
It's
it.
not, I mean, it can be done clearly.
Yes. Yes.
It's not like I'm doing something superhuman. It's just like somebody else is doing it too, you know? It can't be done.
I think that's such a great lesson, though. I think that's such a great point to make right
Yeah, but
now.
look where it got me.
Well, but come on, look what you did. But you also have a different drive and different mindset. But what you just said was gold. Like, it really was. Like, where you just feel like you get it. People just get in their way of things, you know, because it's overthinking. Like, I will never forget the example you gave me now of the camelback on the back. I love that you just had no idea.
Didn't know.
And sometimes I feel like when we leap and jump into the deep end, not knowing, you're gonna swim.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah. You're gonna have to. Like, otherwise, you know, the only option is the option you don't want to go to, you know?
Yeah.
And you're gonna figure it out. And I think that the beginning of your journey like that is just so
It's forced growth.
Yeah.
But I mean, it works. It works.
It works. And then so how many decas have you, so what's your goal? Like, what's not your goal?
Want me to take you from 2014 and tell you how I went down the slippery slope?
Well, yeah, like 2014, and then so what happened right after that?
So
you did your 2016.
At that race in 2016,
Yeah.
that was in, I think, June.
Yeah.
Somebody told me about, I think it was September, October. Somebody told me that there was going to be a quintuple in Virginia.
Quintuple.
Yeah, which is, well, they told me initially about the triple, but every 2 years they also coincide. They run a quintuple at the same time.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I could go to the triple, but if they only run the quintuple every 2 years, I can always go back and do a triple. But I might not be able to do a quintuple for another 2 years after that. So if I'm going to invest the time, the money, the sacrifice, and there's a ton of planning that goes into it. So I told my dad that he was going to come with me. And
amazing. Good job, Dad.
Poor dad.
Good job, Dad.
Anyway, so we went to Virginia, and that I think was like a defining moment in training my brain, so to speak, in this sport, because finished the swim. That was really hard. The water was really cold. You know, like I can remember having broth in my hands, just like shaking because it was so cold. Finished the bike and got onto the run, and the run is like 210K, but got into halfway of the run.
Yeah.
And my muscles, we got into a morning where it was really cold.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when the temperature drops, it's the coldest time around 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's just miserable.
Yeah.
And it was really cold. And this quad muscle, like right here, it tore. And it was absolutely the worst feeling I've ever experienced.
Oh my God.
I got what I can only describe as like a radiator. You know how the coils go back and forth?
Yes.
I got hot, cold all the way down my body and then just completely soaked. So your body's in shock. And all I could think of is like, it feels the same as like when I was giving birth to my son.
Okay.
And that was my only pain ratio to go back to. And I thought, I've put so much in, like I'm so close to the end, even though 100K plus to go is a lot.
Yeah.
But you put in so
much time.
You've invested so much to be there, so much time, money, energy.
Everything.
And I thought, like, I really wanted, my heart wanted to keep going. And I thought, okay, so when you're having a kid, so all things go wrong, you tear, whatever.
Yeah.
And the doctor says to you, okay, it's a 3-month healing process. And I thought about that and I thought, my bones aren't broken. I would say no if my bones are broken.
Okay.
But it's a muscle and it's torn and I know it'll heal. And if I keep running on it, it's just going to prolong that. But ultimately, I don't feel like I didn't feel at the time like I'm doing permanent damage. And I've never had a problem with it since.
Really?
So, no, the damage that happens is not physical, it's psychological, because I've always felt how do I say this? I've always felt like, should I baby it?
Oh,
Yet it's reacted perfectly. It's healed. And it's always given me what I needed. But psychologically, there's a weakness there where I've said, okay, am I pushing too hard? Will it flare up? And it never has. So I've had to get over the psychological part of thinking, you know, like that there's a weakness there when there actually isn't. It's completely healed. But anyway, back to the treatment. It's a mind. It is.
I'm very intrigued by the process that you, and even you comparing to the pain threshold of having a child, and you in that moment saying, I was able to get over it. It's just a quick tear, but you knew how painful that was, but you were able to put that into comparison. Like, I just think that is a brilliant way of thinking.
But the neat thing is, this is the most interesting thing that happened. 30 minutes after, when I continued, I was like, okay, I'm just going to try and breathe the same way as when I was having my son.
Yeah.
You know, and breathe, and focus only on my breathing and not the injury. Because if I focus on the injury is going to become, it's going to become everything I think about. And 30 minutes.
True.
Yes, it is. We get in our own way. We get in our own way with everything that we do.
Let us learn a couple of lessons from Shanda Hill over here. Amazing.
But your brain, this is the part where my brain was starting to become, just like your muscles, it grows. And this was the part that I feel is the most, you know, the defining moment, because 30 minutes after that, it went numb. And I believe that's it's partially your shock response.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think that we are able to do things that we don't think are possible, but we have to train our brains to become that way.
Yes.
And so I always go back to that.
Yes.
Whenever I'm in pain somewhere, and I always say, am I going to let the pain that I'm in determine the race? Am I going to let it stop me? Yes, it's there. There's no denying it's there. But there's also so many other amazing things about the race that come of it, the people you talk to, the experiences. And if I obsess over it, it will become huge. It's like a pimple on your face.
Yeah.
You obsess over that pimple.
I know.
Nobody else is even going to see it.
No one sees
But
it.
it's going to be massive in your mind.
Yes.
My gray hairs will become twice as great as they were yesterday.
100%.
My clothes will become tighter because I think I gained weight overnight.
Right.
We're ridiculous.
Yes. So that, oh wow, it's so cool. It's so cool to hear that. And I'm so actually really thankful that you're sharing this, because I really think that so many more people need to learn from this, you know, in everyday life. Like you said, it doesn't have to be like a triple deca-thon or, you know, it could be like in anything that you do in your life where you're just like, what are you fixated over, right? And if it's going to continue to be fixated over something that's going to give you pain, well, then you're going to have pain, right? And to just kind of work with it. So have you learned how to like these big races that you've done? Okay, so after 2016, so then how many did you do? Like, so then kind of like roughly, like what have you done since then? So much more.
My cumulative total of races finished is 135, equivalent of iron distance triathlons since 2016 to now. So in 8 years, and minus there was 2 years I lost because of COVID.
Yeah. 8 years.
So 6 years of racing.
And you were the only female, don't you have a record like that? Only female in the world to complete a triple, am I saying it right?
When I finished, I was the first female, and there was 2 more females that finished after me. But I'm the only female in the world and the only person in the world to finish 2 double decas back to back.
The only person.
Yeah.
Shanda, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's relative, because I'm racing with people that are doing, you know, similar stuff that I feel is just as hard, so I don't feel so special.
Yeah, but
from an outside perspective, if I had to look in, you know, it is quite fascinating.
But I think that the beauty of the story is what you went through in 2003 to probably thinking like, did you think that you were not going to make it at some point? Like, did you think, or did you ever feel that? Or did you feel like you were going to, like, was it ever like that point where you weren't sure? Or was it like.
Not make it as in not want to get out of bed every day. Yeah. From the pain that you're in, the sensitivity to lights. Like there's one instance it stands out so much in my mind. And I was in the upstairs bedroom at my mom's house.
Yeah.
And my mom was downstairs and my dad was in the living room, and it was later on the night. And there's a sound that TVs emit that's really, really high frequency. And if you're hypersensitive to sound, you become receptive to this. And I had that. And so my dad would turn the volume off on the TV. My mom's downstairs. And this is late at night. And I would hear this sound. I'd be like, the TV's on. And my mom, I'd yell down to her, Mom, tell Dad to turn the TV off. He's not watching TV because there was no volume, so she couldn't hear it. And then I'm laying in the bed thinking that I'm losing my mind because you're hearing something that nobody else is. I said, tell him to turn off the TV. There's no TV on, Shanda. So she sneaks upstairs and my dad's watching hockey with no volume. And then she believes me. But I'm losing my mind over this high frequency sound in the bedroom and, stuff like that. You feel like you're kind of losing your mind. But then there's little glimpses of hope when your mom affirms that, the TV is on. It is on.
What a mind game.
There's a lot of times when I didn't want to go on because I just wanted the pain to end. And I was stubborn because I wouldn't take pain medication because I was scared I'd become addicted to it. And so it tells me though that the beauty in that is there's still a part of my brain that was rational enough to say, don't do that.
That's amazing.
Which to me, that's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I can't just look at it and go, it's all negative because but it's not easy when you're in it. It's so hard when you're in it.
Well, what you came out of, I think it actually represents like everything that you're kind of doing right now. Like
Am I reliving trauma?
Well, I don't want to necessarily say you're reliving trauma, but like I feel like you have that capacity to get yourself through something. Like, and that's why like probably this might be only the beginning for you. Like I'm sure you've got many of races planned still.
I have goals, but you know what's so weird? My goals just seem they morph because what happens is I used to think that the Double Deca was the end all. And the Triple Deca wasn't even offered until last year. So I didn't even know that
this was available.
If it was a thing. So, I thought, okay, I've hit the Double Deca and we're good. I mean, but then you go, I didn't feel as bad as I thought I'd feel, or there's more I want to learn. And I joke now that when I stop is when I will stop. Like when I stop loving is when I'll quit.
Yeah, which might not, maybe till the very end, girl. I think when you have that like love and that fire about something, like that's
beautiful to have that.
Yes.
But I'm literally, I joke, I'm getting a university degree in my body.
You sure are.
What I'm learning and the troubleshooting I learned the most interesting thing at the last race.
Can you tell us?
Yes.
Okay.
So every race you learn something and some stick with you, some you forget, and then you have to remember again during the next race because your brain is sometimes really tired.
Yeah.
But one of the other racers, I don't generally ever touch caffeine because it makes my heart race. In very small amounts I can do it.
Yeah.
But it's almost pointless to use as a stimulant because it just makes my heart go insane.
Yeah.
So one of the racers, I was talking to him about this, and he's a scientist and like he writes books and studies athletes. So his knowledge is just gold.
Yeah.
And he ran a couple laps with me because he'd done a different race and then he was finished but still at the place. So, can still do a couple laps.
Yeah.
And he's telling me about glucose tablets. And I've never heard of glucose tablets, but I guess when a diabetic is crashing, they use a glucose tablet to kind of pick them up.
Yeah.
Which it's even more potent than fruit sugars and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm very hesitant to try new stuff.
Yeah.
But he's also has a very educated opinion.
Yes.
And so I thought, okay, I'll try a glucose tab. And he said, don't take more than 3 a day.
Yeah.
Because it breaks, the sugar's so simple that it breaks the blood-brain barrier and it will pick you up really quickly, but without any side effects of caffeine or a crash. It's just almost like a little boost.
Yeah.
And so probably what drinking Coca-Cola to race into something.
Yes.
It's right. Instant sugar. But glucose tabs are the end all. Like they're the highest quality sugar you can get. So anyway, I tried it, and at that time I was like not in a super positive place.
Yeah.
And I tried one, and it's so bizarre because my brain must have been low in sugar, because within 2 or 3 seconds, I had really positive thoughts.
Wow.
And I thought, this is just bizarre. So during the race, I wanted to try this out.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to experiment on the other girls.
Okay.
They trust me. I'm not giving.
Right,
it's not
right,
like I'm
right.
giving them drugs. It's
No,
something
you're right.
that's very simple, right?
Yes.
And so he gave me his bottle of these glucose tabs.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to know if this is a placebo effect. And so I went around to the other girls in the following nights.
Yeah.
And I said, you guys want to try? They taste like vitamin C's.
Right.
So you guys want to try one of these? And I said, I just want your feedback. And they trust me well enough to know I'm not giving them something.
Of course.
Right, because I care,
Yeah,
which is great because we have great relationships and I would never do these girls wrong.
Yeah.
So anyway, the one girl that tried, well, they both did eventually, but the one girl that tried the first time, she said to me, she says, I can't believe it. She said, I felt like I wanted to stay up all night long and I couldn't even sleep. And I thought, maybe your brain was really depleted of sugar.
Right. So you start to like put correlations towards, yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. And so it's kind of like having a toolbox, and each race you're learning another tool.
Yeah.
And you're putting that tool in your toolbox. So in my case, I'm really grateful because I have all these races under my belt, and then I can share that with other racers. Or I would love to see a woman that comes from Canada, or a man, and I would love to mentor them and say, like, I've got so much to pass on right now.
Well, I think that you are honestly like a wealth of information for mentally, physically, and like you said, like putting the correlations towards what's going into your body. So you probably even know like how to fuel your body properly.
I'm constantly learning.
Yes.
Every race is different.
Right. And like it could even be with sleep and rest. Like how do you know how much rest you take? Like do you sleep during these races?
I'm experimenting all the time. So I've gone, especially having had a brain injury.
Yeah.
I'm super sensitive to sleep and my brain needs it because it's a little bit more susceptible. But I started to experiment with less and less sleep and see what happens. And before I was too scared to.
Yeah.
Now I know that anything below 3 hours a night really will put me off. Whereas I used to take 6 hours when I started racing. And 6 hours is the difference between if you're racing with somebody who's the exact same speed as you and they only take 3, it becomes a strategy game because all of a sudden you are 3 hours behind and you can't make up.
Yeah.
And so...
So
So
you like literally would sleep for 3 hours and would continue on?
Yeah.
So the last race that you did in Italy,
yes,
right, which was in September. Actually, I don't know, maybe you remember this and maybe you don't, but like I hadn't seen you in a while, but I saw you at London Drugs, like right, you probably but it was right before your race.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was probably excited.
Yeah. But I didn't know you were racing, right? So like I didn't know that you were going. And then like 3 days later, I'm like, oh my God. Like if I would have known, I would have been like, hey, yeah, go get him, you know? But yeah, and then all of a sudden you're racing. And so that to me was also amazing. Like that whole, like I followed the stories on Facebook and
Jax's updates.
Yes, Jax's updates. Yeah, were very amazing.
You know what's fascinating? Nobody would know that I raced. I mean, unless they were in the ultra or super interested in what I'm doing. Nobody would know that I raced if Jax wasn't doing updates. So,
but I think that that's really important, and I think it's a great thing for your journey.
I think it's a beautiful way to share because of the way that he writes.
Yes.
And because for me, it's the most beautiful because if he wasn't doing it, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't have the interest in
it.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't have the words. And when you're an athlete that's really passionate about what you're doing, it distracts. Social media distracts from what you're doing. So for me to be able to make a phone call home once or twice, 3 times a day and explain where I'm at and hang up the phone, go back to racing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You can detach and you don't have to think about anything.
It's so good.
It's
perfect. A great it's a great mix, I think. Because I think more and more people, like as you're watching this on social, like really like I was blown away and I loved the fact that you actually gave us ideas and tips that like, oh, I can understand Vernon to Picton. Otherwise I don't really understand what 500 foot over kilometers are, but just to see that. And I remember seeing, like I was following you for one. I know you had a couple of issues, right?
Rolling my ankle.
Rolling your ankle and continuing on.
I can tell you tricks. Do you want to know tricks?
Well, share a trick.
Oh, so I learned the tricks with ankles being rolled at the Bush Babes and Bros Cal Park race.
Okay, yeah.
And it was it 2021? I think it was 2021. Some of the years blur.
Yeah.
We have to touch on the 3 decas after that. So remind me. We'll go back to it.
Okay.
I was running and I'm supposed to wear glasses and I don't.
Yeah.
Because I'm stubborn and I hate them.
Yeah.
And I was running and I stepped on a stump, like a small tree stump.
Yeah.
My ankle rolled out and it was really bad. Like I knew it wasn't something I was going to bounce back from, but I'm so stubborn that I got back up and in pain tried to walk it out to the next aid station. And I knew there was really good amount of ligament damage done. She actually sent me the photos.
Oh no! Wow.
When I took my shoe off at the next aid station, and I knew my race was done, but I was just I'm so stubborn.
Yeah.
I tried, and I got to the next aid station and they took my shoe off and my ankle literally doubled in size. And I thought, this can never happen again because this is a deal breaker. Like this wrecks my race.
Yeah,
and I wanted to finish that race.
Yes.
I don't like wreck races. So I thought, what can I do to first heal it, but help it not happen again? And I started doing stretches once it was healed.
Yeah.
Stretches at the gym, which I can show you after.
Yeah.
But where I sit in a yoga position with my feet together.
Yeah.
And then I come up.
Oh.
And what it's doing is keeping all of my ligaments really, really stretched. So you'd think that it would be a bad thing. But now when I roll my ankles, it's not half as devastating as before when I rolled my ankles because it's not tearing as bad.
Wow.
Because they're all ready to roll.
Got you.
So it's not
you've trained it for that.
I've trained it for that.
Yeah.
By doing, and I do those exercises religiously. I also stand on my toes, kind of like ballet.
Yeah.
I stand on my toes on a regular basis to strengthen the arches of my foot. Because if you don't have a solid base, like feet up, everything else is going to.
So are you learning on your own? Like
yes,
you
I'm
have
being
no
forced,
trainer, no
I'm
nothing.
being forced to learn on my own.
Fascinating.
Leah Goldstein has helped me tremendously on the bike.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's either gaining knowledge at races, wrecking myself and having to figure out how I can not have that again.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is when you have an injury like that, and it's been really bad, when you roll your ankle at a race, it hurts, it's uncomfortable, but you also know, once again, that it's going to heal.
Yeah.
It's probably, not anything super major.
Yeah.
It just really sucks.
And it really hurts.
Yes.
You must have a high pain tolerance.
You become more pain tolerant.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that's living with chronic pain. I've had pain in my back, my T6 and T7, where the vehicle hit me my whole life. But if it's not an option to medicate it, or you're too scared to take the drugs the doctors want to give you have a forced pain tolerance.
Wow.
So.
And that's gotten you through what you've done. What was the worst injury that you had?
My hip. And I
hip.
think
in this last race in Italy.
2016 was the worst to date. And I compare everything. I go back to that.
Oh, your quad.
Yes, my quad muscle tearing. And because I hadn't experienced that type of pain.
Oh,
and
gosh.
So that was the worst. During Italy, my worst pain, I rolled my ankle and it was really puffy, but that's, I've done it worse. So I had something to compare it to. And I just thought, I knew what to do. I need to ice it. I knew to put it up when I'm resting it, try and get the fluid out, use the compression boots.
Yeah.
So I had the tools that I needed to help with that. And it still gets puffy, but it's not horrible.
Yeah.
It's just a cankle.
It's just a cankle.
But the hip. So here's what happened. I didn't realize I'd spent a maximum of 12 days on a bike before. Yeah. But not 18, not in the conditions that we've been through, not with the climbing and elevation. Yeah. That we had at this last race. And I got off the bike and went straight onto a course with all of my muscles super tight. Yeah. I should have gone straight to the osteotherapist and let him work on me because we do have access at this race to do that.
That's good.
I should have done that. The error I made was taking all those muscles that were so tight from being on the bike. Yeah. And even though I did try and walk it out and you try and get loose again, for the first day off the bike, you literally, if you run, you look like you're cycling. Right. Because your body's only used to that motion for 18 days. It's funny to watch other people do it. Yeah. And we all kind of
I get it.
We make fun of each other, the other athletes, but it's in good humor. Yeah. So I got off and my hips were really tight already from only being in the cycling position. Yeah. And then you go in the second day I tried to run and we got a lot of rain in between all that. And the course, it was half mud and super slippery.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't getting any traction. And I think that caused muscles that were super tight to be pulled and then continue going. You get to day 5, you get to day 10.
Yeah.
And it's just compounding.
Yeah.
The good thing is when I finally hurt badly enough,
Yeah.
I started going every day to the osteotherapist.
Okay.
But it's hard because mentally you have to take time out
Yeah.
to take care of you.
Yes.
And
But you don't
wanna
want to
just
take
push.
that. I know.
No, and
Yes.
this can be parlayed into everyday
Yes.
life. You know? Like if you're not taking time out for you,
Yeah.
even though you're doing something that is technically about you, but you're not.
But you need to rest. I think, like, I don't
Yeah.
know if you grew up that way too. Like, but I grew up thinking, like, in my mind, like, because I'm mentally, like, driven too, right?
Go.
Yeah, but go push, go do this, do that. But then there comes a point, your body actually, I think, is the best indicator.
It tells you.
But if you can be in tune with your body that way, you will know, like, when is too much, when is not too much, like, when is it gonna, you know, give out on you, or when do you actually need to take a rest?
When you can push.
Yeah. Because then if you push past those limits, you push through burnout. And then you break down, you've got burnout. It could be whatever the case it may be, you know.
It's not just your body, it's your mind too.
Oh, man.
We're good at that.
Oh, yeah. And so I feel like rest is also another really great point that we're making in this podcast, is that you have to take that time to rest.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't really replenish. I just find the body so fascinating. Like,
you want to know a fascinating thing?
Yeah.
So going into this last race, and I'm experimenting every race.
Yeah.
Because no 2 races, you have different temperatures. You deal with cold, hot.
Yeah.
You have to change your eating according to that.
Yeah.
My goal with this race was to not lose any weight. And that's a very, very complex and hard thing to do when you are putting out so many calories per day. I'm averaging on the bike probably 10,000 calories a day.
Wow.
You know, and that's to leave me not in depletion. That's
Right.
just to top up and have the energy I need. So
Gosh.
it's pretty,
It's
it's like, that's like 3 18-inch pizzas if you were to just eat crap food.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
like
totally.
You are constantly eating.
Yeah.
But something that was really interesting is the water that we had access to was not sitting right in my stomach, and it was just bloating me up.
Oh.
And so I had to troubleshoot and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And I switched to almond milk
Okay.
and rice milk
Yeah.
and rice chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And had the support that was able to show up,
Yeah.
go and buy this. And I did not drink any water on the bike at all.
You did?
For 18 days, I drank rice milk and rice chocolate milk and almond milk. And that's why I believe I was able to, I mean, I had rancho, I had 30 pounds of fruit.
So you were able to,
But I was literally drinking liquid calories. And the most interesting thing that I learned is normally at races, when you get low in vitamins, I think it's B7. No, I don't know. I don't know. It's been a while. I have to top back up. But you get, from riding, you get cracks on the sides of your mouth because your skin gets really dry.
Yeah.
From having all of the almond milk and the rice milk, which is fortified, I didn't get any cracks.
Here's another thing. You should write a
now
book.
My caloric intake was, I don't have the brain to write a book. I just want to race.
Well, Jack will write it for you. You just have to talk.
Poor guy. I didn't have any cracks on the sides of my mouth and my skin.
Yeah.
And I was able to maintain weight the whole race.
Wow.
So it's really
It's
neat.
puzzle piecing. You like puzzle piecing and
that's the first time I've ever drank
just not water.
Yes. Well no. Mexico was, you don't even want, I don't even want to say it on camera.
It was so bad.
The water was undrinkable in Mexico.
How can they give
I don't know what
that?
my body had to do. Oh, this is embarrassing to say, but okay, this is people need
go
to hear
for
this.
it. Go for it.
I had nothing to drink that my body would keep down but Coca-Cola for 25 days.
Really?
So I should be dead. But you're not. The water
was
made
so
me
bad.
sick.
So all you drank was Coke?
That's all that I had access to. We were in the middle of nowhere. You couldn't drive to a store to go get something else. We had to have whatever was available. Yeah. I don't talk about that on camera because to me I feel horrible for my body that my body had to go through that.
But also I think your body,
fascinating.
That it is fascinating. And I also think that you fed it whatever you could feed it and it worked for that time.
no choice.
You had no choice. And you feel so bad, but
it's psychological.
Yeah, it is, because it's like, so
I won't forget that. And I'm under no circumstances would I ever like to do that again to my body.
Yeah.
But I just find it so interesting, that my body was able to,
take that in and continue on.
How am I not diabetic?
Right.
So
oh my God,
anyway,
so crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the second double deca that I did, not last year, but the year before.
Okay.
And that was all I had access to. So.
Okay, then there's another lesson is that you can find things to continue on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just because it's not given to you and it's not there in what you're used to, find another option.
We have to go back to you asked a question about the races that I've completed.
Yes.
What's important for people to know. And I generally hadn't talked about a lot because I just felt it was unimportant. But as I learned more about myself, out of the 6 decas, so that's a 10 Ironman, out of the 6 I've attempted, I've DNF'd 3 of them.
Really?
Yes. People need to know this because people need to know that no matter how hardcore you appear or how stubborn you seem, there are sometimes things beyond your control. And there are also times when you get to a point you say, enough's enough. There's a race in New Orleans that I DNF'd. And I actually thought at that point that I was done racing. And I just came to a point, the love wasn't gone, but I think my body was tired, my brain was tired.
Yeah.
The logistics of it, the race for me is not easy.
No, it's the easier part of it.
The race is the easiest part of it. The logistics, the planning, the earning
prep.
money, all of that goes into getting to a race is incredibly stressful for me because I'm not a planner.
Yeah.
I'm a just do it person.
Yeah.
So
it got to you.
Booking flights.
Yeah.
I hate booking flights.
Right.
Flying, I hate airports.
You just want to go run the race.
I just want to be at the race.
Just somebody get me there. Right.
Yes, if I had a secretary.
Just do all the things. But there's so many things.
Jax has been lumped with so many things over the years that
I'm sure.
It's not even fair to him.
But anyway. It's so nice. He believes in what you do, though. So I think that's so wonderful to have that support.
Or he takes pity. We'll have to ask him.
Okay, well, we will. Right, Jack?
Anyway,
that's so awesome.
There has been races where,
there is a DM. So how do you feel at that point when you go through something like that?
Oh.
You feel like you just
I can tell you how I feel. What you feel, if you can put the ego aside.
Yes.
If you can put the ego aside and you have to say to get through something like that.
Yeah.
You have to go 2022. Most people don't know this if they weren't actively following me.
Yeah.
2022, I set out to do 2 decas back to back.
Yeah.
So I went to Switzerland and my lungs had been pretty trashed from 2019. There was a lot of chlorine in the pool. That's a completely different story.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
My lungs were weakened and I didn't realize they were weakened as badly as they were.
Yeah.
Switzerland was basically, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I came out of the water after being in the water for 19 hours.
Yeah.
And my lungs just weren't taking in oxygen. They weren't working properly. And I couldn't, no matter how well my legs were trained, I couldn't go out on the bike and I couldn't get any kilometers per hour that I needed. My body
Your body's like
have a nice day. If you can't get oxygen in your lungs, nothing else works.
Right.
Doesn't matter what kind of conditioning you're in.
Yeah.
My lungs had gotten to a point where they're like, have a nice day.
So how far did you push until you were you surrendered?
On the bike?
Yeah.
It was less than 100K. I knew it. And that's hard because the will is there, the heart is there, but sometimes you have to say no. And you have to know yourself to know that.
Yeah, you do.
And my ticket wasn't booked home till the end of the race. I had to sit in that tent, watch everybody else compete, and watch other people that I know I could have finished ahead of.
Yeah.
You have to swallow your ego and just say, you know what? I'm doing what's best. And if I'm smart and I rest and I figure out how to troubleshoot this, then I'll come back.
Wow.
And so I went home and I got oxygen treatments. I got oxygen therapy on my lungs. And that is something I'll probably do the rest of my life because it helps so much. so much. So that's how I got out of that. But then here I fixed my lungs with oxygen treatment. And then later on that summer, I went to Mexico and I was doing the 1 a day format. So 1 Ironman per day.
Yeah.
And the first day, I've never admitted this on camera. The first day, I ended up with a UTI. And I've never had a UTI.
Ever.
The pool
Oh my gosh.
there's no chlorine in it.
Yeah.
And it started to turn green. And I didn't know this. Once again, it's a learning experience.
Yeah.
By the time they got me an IV that evening and got me to the hospital, that's how bad it progressed over the course of the day. Because I was sitting on a bike seat for how many hours? 6.5 hours. And then trying to run. And I'm having pains that I don't know these pains.
Right, because you've never,
Because I've never had this problem.
Oh my
and so all
gosh.
of a sudden, I get to the point where I can't even run anymore.
Yeah.
They took me away by ambulance. I get to the hospital, doctor's like, "You in any water?" Oh man, like I didn't put 2 and 2 together because I didn't know what was going on. They put me on liquid antibiotics. It wasn't even a choice. They put me on liquid antibiotics. My race was done though, just like that.
Just like that.
And so I had in 2022, I had my entire race season, 2 big races, tons of, time planning, money, sacrifice had gone into it. All of a sudden, psychologically, am I not meant to race anymore?
Yeah.
And you ask yourself these questions because all of a sudden, what am I, a broken machine? So your confidence, once again, like going back to my accident.
Yeah, it gets like
your
crushed.
confidence is smashed and you question everything because suddenly your machine isn't working right.
Yeah.
And this is not one thing, but 2 things that have gone wrong.
Right.
And it's humbling. And it's not just humbling because all of a sudden you've got a lot of people following you and they're asking, "Are you okay?" Well, you don't know if you're okay. How do you answer that? And you have to always go back to what can I learn from this? How can I move forward from it? And how can I take it in the next race?
Amazing.
And the crazy thing is so many people saw the next year where I finished the equivalent of 40 irons, in less than 3 months. And they see that and they celebrate it with you, but they don't realize
the hard stuff.
The year before.
Yeah, it was terrible.
You DNF'd 2 races back to back.
But I feel like to me that's it's a motivating story because like you do have to go through life and have those things that are going to push you down. And it is putting your ego aside.
Oh, you have to.
Because it's the ego that's actually going to come over you and take over and really it's not good for you. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you can just do that.
Once again, we get in our own way.
We do get in our own way. It's like, get out of the way, and let me just do your thing. And then there's always more opportunities after. That's the other thing too. We get so caught up in the one opportunity that we fail to realize that there's so much more out there. Yeah. Like you said, you had no idea there was going to be a triple one, right? You're like, I'm done. But I love how the universe just keeps handing you stuff literally when you're ready and when you're not.
It's beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing. And, we'll go back to what we talked about with that feeling of finding something you love. My intent through this podcast is to have more people really dive into what it is that makes them feel that joy and that passion and that grit to go and push. And I've been lucky enough to feel that. And I feel like this is what I want people to explore and to get out of your own way and to dive in, because I think that feeling is just, I don't know, it is such a beautiful thing.
I think we get those feelings when we push ourselves to our most uncomfortable points.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be ultra triathlon.
No.
It could be skydiving. It could be anything that you put yourself in that position. You go, I'm growing as a human. Yeah. And this scares the crap out of me. Yeah. But it's not going to stop me from doing it. Yeah. So, so many people ask me that, how do you find your passion or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't have those answers.
Yeah.
But I do say to people, go and do things that scare the crap out of you. I love it. Because you might fall in love with one of those things. And it might take over your life. It might take over your finances. And it might consume you. But you're consumed with something so beautiful that you have that beautiful thing to live for. I know. And I've also thought about it, as an athlete, that's not who I am. It's something I'm doing.
Yeah.
And when this is finished, I can take it and I can delve into something else and throw my heart into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is a period in my life that I'm really embracing Because I feel so grateful that I can do it.
That's so amazing. I got I had a friend send me a little bit of a podcast thing today, and I was listening to it. Anyways, the main point that I want to share is it said you need to live by love. So whatever decision you make, whatever you're doing in life, is it the decision that's made by love, truly in your heart? Because it was talking about compromise. When you start to compromise what's really important to you, you know, as versus what other people think that you should be doing. But when you start to compromise what's in your heart, like, you know, I feel like you just really need to live with love. And that's, I think, how we become to live this life of finding our passion. So, you know, it's super lucky and super amazing. Like, what happens for sponsorships? Like, do you have any, like, if people are watching this and they want to know how to help you or how to get there, like, how can they reach you? Or is it through Facebook, through?
They can reach me through Shanda Hill Ultra, ULTRA.
Okay.
On Facebook,
Okay.
Instagram. Jax is building a website.
Amazing.
So
amazing.
And working on sponsors for this year.
That is so great. So anybody so I did see a lot of people saying, like, how can we help you? Like, I feel that is amazing publicity because people do want to see you and help you.
I never knew so many people would become so engaged when all of this started. And I don't take that for granted because I think if you were to go onto my Facebook, I think I have every amazing positive person on my Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's something that's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
Where else do you see that on Facebook?
I know. Well, you've inspired so many, Shanda, really and truly. Like, I think just by being you and continuing to be yourself, I think what you're doing is fantastic. Thank you for being so motivating and inspiring to myself. You know, like, I mean, I thought I was, like, you know, driven, but this is a different level over here. And I think
it's just a different passion though.
Yeah, but I think I can still learn from it. You know what I mean? Like, I can still learn. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We're going to do one thing. I do like to end with actually the gift of our breath. So I like to take a one deep breath in and out. And those of you at home watching or listening, please do it with us. So you can close your eyes if you want to or not. But let's just all take one collective breath together in through your nose and release however you like. And just being in the moment and being present, I think that is one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself. So thank you so much. We'll see you at the next episode. And Shanda, thank you so much for sharing all of your stories with us today.
Thank you.